Shin Megami Tensei 2 Sound Relation is as perplexing an album as its namesake. It's one of the most disappointing albums out there, but for whatever reason will keep you coming back. It innovates and at times coasts on the periphery of something profound, but instead of aiming for the stars and breaking through, it resigns itself and comes across as some kind of otherwise terrible essay that stumbles upon a treasure trove of good ideas. Out of the 10 tracks here, only 3 of them have an ending, and the other 7 simply fade away after a reprise of where they began. You could argue that where the piece loops is technically where it ends, and for video game orchestra adaptations, I might be willing to agree. But Sound Relation doesn't really give itself enough credit, and concludes its pieces too early, without carrying out a fuller idea. When I say ending, I don't mean I want a 10-second coda to neatly bow-tie everything together. I want it to give a conclusive, musical idea that builds on the material it's presented thus far, something I feel it can do, but shies away from. This wouldn't be a big deal if Relation didn't have anything to say, and didn't build its foundation on deeply romantic sentiment that lingers clearly on themes of foreboding darkness, lechery, seduction, and prime-time fighting. Though these are only select arrangements of a larger score from a game that only came out in Japan in a long-running series whose only symphonic endeavor is in the form of this album, their potential feels nevertheless wasted. Relation's signature talent and what makes it stand out from the crowd is how it not only becomes a perfect encapsulation of Japan's obsession with the realms of pop and symphonic music, but also taps into a genre that I pretty much made up called symphonic disco. You see, disco never really left Japan. Its instrumentals, its style, and underlying rhythms are still used to this day by Japanese composers. To be honest, at first, it wasn't really good, and got a lot of mixed results in stuff like Galaxy Express 3.9 and even Cyborg.
Did you know that disco record sales were up 400% for the year ending 1976? If these trends continue, hey!
Your fish are dead.
Yeah, I know. I can't get them out of there.
Sometimes it was like biting into a LSD sandwich. No more magic pills for Sethi! But then Kohei got better at it, Sugiyama got better at it, and then Noriyuki finally nailed it with the main theme of Grandia in '97, in my opinion. Some other people kinda hate that score, I can see where they're coming from, but I love it. You wouldn't think Relation would be such a star example of this experimentation, because it doesn't glimmer and sweep like disco ever, but that's because of its oh-so-cool approach and how it combines dark romanticism with its dance music rhythms and characterful instrumentation. Take an exceptionally moody piece in Passage to Subterranean World, for example. It warms up with bass guitar, the strings answer with a delightful shiver, the cymbal drum kit begins a count until it starts its beat, allowing very subtle brass to swim across a supporting, ghostly chorus, using the same warm-up and rhythm establishment that many other genres on the radio employ to establish the transfer over to another world, hence the title of this track. It's really cool. Club World is kind of laughable and intoxicating at the same time. It has a nice beat and rhythm, and that's pretty much what carries it. The bass guitar and the clap sound effect of somebody's keyboard begin a duet before brass enters with a whirring chord. Then the xylophone steps in, sounding very much like a xylophone, tiptoeing so delicately it's almost funny. There's an especially funny moment when the piece almost stops altogether and there's a brief cadenza for keyboard, which brings it right back to where it began. It's so out of place that it fits right in. And this is a piece that by itself isn't very good because it doesn't really go anywhere, but together with everything else continues to create a veritable effect on the listener. Relation doesn't blend genres for the sake of it. The mix of modern-day music techniques with that of dark romanticism is spellbinding at its best moments, throwing us on the line between the spiritual and the temporal, the mundane and that which seems to be just without our reach, making the softer pieces especially resonant. Heroism is a very simple piece, but its restful mood subdues. The most complete piece on here, Neutral, is its best. The part of flute and first violin will probably remind people of Lark Ascending, and yeah, but I kind of like this better. I know that's a crime to say. I like Lark Ascending, but it feels too strong and forward with what it tries to accomplish, if that makes any sense. Neutral has an advantage in that it begins with watery flute and groggy bassoon underneath, giving it a very murky tone that it resides in until sympathetic strings, like a calm river, lead us to a part for emerging brass as a brief sign of hope, before a gentle, gradual faint into uncertainty. The next passage is its prettiest, with watery trills of the flutes, and the brass stoically recalling the initial theme. Then the oboe plays it, and we get a mood of bravery with all its fear still intact. Its wearisome attitude underpins an otherwise peaceful mood, and I always get the sense something horrible happened not long after this music started playing. It's very nice, I like it. Dark Temple is just kind of fun, with an operatic beginning, a snake-like melody, and a macabre touch of harpsichord, and oppressive French horns. It's the theme the opera's phantom never got. Having something this campy and rigid along the same side as a track like Club World helps in furthering its obscure effect on the listener. Music feels like a spectral, spiritual force here, even when it's downright goofy or seemingly out of place. That's why I love it. That's why I hate giving it the score that I do. 2.5 stars out of 5, and my MVP pick is Neutral. There's no real mystery as to why this music works so well. There's no deep analytical thinking needed. The rhythm is catchy and the music coaxingly dark. You get to dwell in the most luxurious way possible. What is a mystery is why no one has ever gone back to it since. I want a sequel. I want a symphonic poem for Shin Megami Tensei 2, whose bizarre plot and world are ripe for creating something even better than what we get here. I'd go as far as to say it stands on the fringes of something really special, but because it never breaches further, this is a case of the glass half full. Unlike earlier endeavors, Relation doesn't make the mistake of sounding like club music trying to be a symphony, or a symphony trying to be club music. It just takes a bunch of stuff from every category and creates a dark lushness. Other pieces, such as Chaos or Law, exemplify the calmer, meditative nature of the soundtrack, but just like almost everything else on here, play as though adrift in a funnel. The music only ever changes in terms of orchestration, dynamics, and tone. It's true that a full-arranged soundtrack this does not make, but there is enough here to enjoy. I know the intention of its arrangers was to simply orchestrate 10 pieces from the game and that's it, so it's not like no one did their job or something. But they did such a good job at instrumentals and making their music live that the result went past expectations. Sound Relation has a terrific range of aural landscapes that always make you feel you're somewhere else, somewhere ethereal, and this is Sound Relation's biggest strength. It's rhythmic, porous atmosphere. Its music is that of a dark, wet city street, one whose last remaining working lights hang over, and the dark haze of neon behind you is your only illumination of the puddling veneer before you. It's got good duality, and if you can forgive most of the simple routes this music takes, you'll be treated with something very pretty and different than from what you may normally hear. And that's all you can really ask of a guy, right?
Hey!
That reach the end of a long